Hello, everyone, and welcome back to U.S. News. I am your host, Gemma Vosick. And today we have some pretty interesting stories. We're going to hear from a local poli-sci student about how Congress is actually not representative of the American people. She's going to dive right in. All right, Emma? Hi, thank you, Gemma. I'm really happy to have this opportunity. So I'm actually a student at Nebraska Wesleyan University, and this semester I've been doing some research in my U.S. government classes and a couple other classes as well. And I really would like to start off with a startling fact. Does anyone know how many senators are actually minorities? This year there are 11. So 6 of them are Hispanic, 2 are Asian, and 3 are Black, which is actually really startling because about 25% of the entire US population is minorities, and only 11 senators are representing these people. This is what my studies really focused on, the discrepancy within Congress and the representation of minorities and women in Congress. Currently, Congress has its highest numbers of minorities ever. 23% of Congress is composed of ethnic minorities, which is not even a quarter of the amount of people in Congress, yet this is the highest amount we've ever had. So that's kind of some sad news to hear, don't you think? Why, yes, that is quite shocking. Tell me more, Emma. We'll be right back right after the commercial. Nebraska Wesleyan, the place for you. So let's get started with some vocabulary that's really important to learn. There is substantive representation, and then there is descriptive representation. So Congress already has substantive representation, which means even though they don't look the same, members of Congress are looking out for the minorities and women out there. But descriptive representation is that there's an equal amount of minorities, women, and rich white men for the amount of population that they have. So while substantive is okay and good, descriptive does offer some insights and better policy making for those that are in need. So there have been multiple studies done that show that African Americans are more intrinsically motivated to help out their own race, and along with Latinos and women, they usually side with and try to pass different laws that benefit their race, like taking down of racist statues, getting better women's rights, and then immigration, all these that really affect a lot of the minority communities. It is a fact that when you are part of that community, you will intrinsically look out for them, which is always good when we're dealing with the government that we know. There's also the big point of voter turnout. So when there are only white people on the ballot, there's not as much of a need for someone who's a minority to go out and vote, because no one there is really truly descriptively representing you. When there is descriptive representation, or at least a chance of that happening during an election, that could and usually does bring out more of the minority and marginalized populations. It's always better to have more voter turnout so we can have more voices be formally heard. Many minorities feel like their vote actually won't be heard and their voice is kind of drowned out. This is due to a lot of historical things that have happened in the past, like the South including literacy tests, so many African American past slaves couldn't vote, and then also the question of if you're a citizen, if you can vote, and if you have a legal house, how do you vote, and all these different things that do narrow down the voting pool. But everyone should deserve a voice if they're living in America. So my final tidbit of information for you today is going to be talking a lot about women. Women aren't a minority. Actually, women make up, I believe, 51% of the United States, but we don't see that many women in office. So why is that? Well, the fact of it is women are not as confident that they will get a role within the government. There have been studies shown that men actually apply for jobs usually when they only have 30% of the required experience. But women will not feel confident enough to apply for a job unless she's 70% experienced or more. So, that's to be said, even if someone is highly educated, has enough money, her gender does matter. And being able to see other women in power would also help to break down these hard barriers. There's actually some really interesting research that shows Republican women usually don't get very much funding from the party, and it's much harder for them to enter into Congress, the Senate, local elections, and everything. So, there is a disparity between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. If we'd like to hear more voices, women should be allowed everywhere and given equal funding and an equal chance to enter the government and make changes. Because we're not that all different from everyone else. It's not, since I'm a woman, I'm going to vote against all men. That's not how it works. There might just be a couple of things that we disagree on. Each identity overlaps, and helping pinpoint the differences that matter to each different identity is important in Congress so that we don't push people away and we don't marginalize others. So just to wrap it all up and tie it in a perfect bow, I just want to remind you all that we are getting better at descriptive representation in Congress and in the government. Things are changing, but knowing what's going on and pushing for better education will always make everything work so much more smoothly. That's why I'm here, to educate. So I just wanted to let you know there's progress being made, but we still need to take more steps forward. Thank you, and thank you, Gemma. I'm very happy to be on the show today and spread awareness and tell you more about the US government. She's so sweet. Thanks again, Emma, for joining us today. It was really interesting to hear what you had to say, and I'm glad that I get to know more about the US government. All right, that's it for this evening. Thank you for watching Emma News. I hope you have a wonderful day.